Afternoon, Club 17, and welcome to another virtual meeting. We've had quite a broad array of meetings virtually the last few weeks, from government with Brad Winstrup to our chief of police to even tires last week with Bob Ostreicher. So today we're really excited to have our Hilton executive chef with us today, who's going to give us our own virtual cooking show today. So welcome, George.
Thank you.
Seeing you in action here this morning. So before we get to George, I'll run through a couple announcements and share with the membership what's going on in the club these days. So I hope everyone's been enjoying our Rotary Derby week this week. I learned a lot about the favorite bourbons of some of our members. Everybody knows that mine is a little rare, although it's very rare to get, so I'm looking forward to getting some more of that. There's a few folks that donned their Rotary Derby hats throughout the course of Tuesday, so that was pretty entertaining as well. And I hope everybody got a chance to listen to Molly Wellman yesterday, because she actually showed us how to make the perfect mint julep cocktail. And one thing I learned was that adding that little dash of Myers rum to the very top of the cocktail makes it even taste better. So I'm hopefully going to try that out on this sometime this weekend. And then tomorrow night, we'll culminate our Rotary Week, Derby Week, with the Rotary Derby itself. And our track announcer, Jim Brooks, is going to be leading the race and rolling the dice. We still have horses that can be purchased for $10. So if you are so inclined, feel free to get a hold of Christy today and let her know that you'd like to purchase a horse. It should be a lot of fun. So that's tomorrow night at 7 p.m. So look forward to seeing you there. We also had a little bit of fun earlier this week with Rotary Euchre, and I think over 20 folks were playing Euchre virtually using an online Rotary game, or online Euchre game, excuse me. And I'd like to thank Jeff Weir for arranging that. I understand it was a very fun event, and we're looking forward to doing that again as well. I also wanted to update everyone on our project with the Girl Scouts and our Cincinnati Public Schools project. And based on your generosity and the club match, we have almost $23,000 worth of Girl Scout cookies we're going to be purchasing and supplying those to La Soup, who will be, again, incorporating those into meals that will be provided to Cincinnati Public Schools families. So that's a great project, and for anybody that still wants to donate, there's still time left to do that, but please get a hold of Christy today, if you could, to let her know that you're interested. So I want to update a few folks as far as members in the news. Wanted to let you know a little bit about Ron Ott. Ron unfortunately fell and broke his nose and required 11 stitches. And he's going to be meeting with a surgeon here shortly to determine if his nose is healing okay or if he'll have to have additional surgery. But hopefully nothing impacts his breathing and he'll be fine. But he also has had some additional issues with AFib, and he's going to be meeting with a surgeon here shortly to discuss his treatment plan coming up. So please keep Ron in your thoughts and prayers. I also wanted to update you on Bud Dornetti. We received an update from his wife Mary earlier in the week, and as you know, I think he has had a staph infection. He's going through antibiotic treatment, but he's going to be starting chemo and radiation next week. But he's still not able to take any phone calls yet, but any cards that you do send, please send those to their home, and Mary will actually read them to Bud over the phone. And unfortunately, because of the COVID crisis, Mary's not able to even visit him in the hospital. So please keep Bud and Mary in your thoughts and prayers as well. And lastly, before we get to George, I wanted to congratulate Jeff Weir for being named one of the top 10 agents for individual production in March. He's with the Keller Williams Seven Hills Agency. So congrats, Jeff, on that success, and we're looking forward to hearing more. So I will go ahead and introduce George, and then he'll take over from here, and then we'll have the ability to provide some questions and answers when he's done with his cooking show. So I'm pleased to introduce our speaker, George Zappas, who's, again, our executive chef at the Hilton Cincinnati Netherlands Plaza Hotel downtown. And he currently oversees all of the culinary activities at the Orchids at Palm Court. Also the Palm Court Grill, along with all the banquet and catering facilities. Believe it or not, George is here in Cincinnati, but he's a Pittsburgh native, and he actually came to our state to go to school at Ohio University, where he earned a bachelor's degree in fine arts. He actually started cooking early on in his life in his home, but actually at OU is when he really fell in love with cooking, and he began to work in the university's commissary kitchen. And then when he moved back to Pittsburgh, he began to work in various restaurants and was mentored by several top chefs in Pittsburgh, and that's really when he decided to make his a career be that of cooking. So he and his wife moved to Cincinnati several years ago, and his first thing that he did was to identify what the top 25 restaurants were, and then he began to apply at the top 10 of those. And he was, fortunately for us, offered a job as a line cook at the Orchids, and he's never looked back since. So he's had quite the history at the hotel, and he's worked his way all the way up from a cook to kitchen supervisor to a sous chef. And then he actually restarted the restaurant's butchery program to produce cured ham and salami, as well as dried aged beef and duck. And he also later took the position of director of purchasing, which rounded out his experience and allowed him to gain even more experience to hopefully at one day become the director of food and beverage at the Hilton. But not only did he do that, he was also named executive chef in 2018. And I think you can all attest his passion is delivering an exceptional customer experience. So for that, George, I'll turn it over to you, but I'd like to ask everyone to give a warm Rotary welcome to George Zappas.
Hi, I'm George Zappas. I'm executive chef of the Hilton Inn Plaza and Orchids at the Palm Court. I just wanted to say, first off, thank you to the Rotary Club for allowing us to do a quick little demo for you on some Derby Day dishes. And also a quick thank you to the generous donation you made to some of our longtime staff. I know that they really appreciated it, and it really touched them. A couple of the dishes I'm going to be making today, I'm going to be doing a chocolate bourbon pecan bar and also some sauerkraut balls with a pimento cheese dip. So first thing I'm going to be doing is for the bourbon chocolate pecan bars. Yeah, that's a mouthful. We're going to be starting off with the dough. So here we're going to be creaming together some butter and some powdered sugar. Now, when you do this, you want to be a little bit careful with this because it will create a big dust scene. It might be fun for you, not fun for me. So this is room temperature butter. We got about a pound, and then we got about a pound of powdered sugar in here going. And while that's starting to work together, and we're going to get to a creaming method, see, a little bit of fun. I'm also going to be starting on another one where I'm going to be getting the base to our sauerkraut balls together. So for the sauerkraut balls, we're going to take yesterday's mashed potatoes. So this is utilization, so you don't always have to throw things away or force feed yourself at the end of the night. So for this mixture, we're going to be grabbing our ingredients for this is just really straightforward, simple. We have some caraway here that's been toasted. We have some cheddar cheese. And we have sauerkraut that actually we house make. I believe the last batch we made, we did about 40 pounds. All right. So with all that stuff in the bowl, I'm just going to get a glove on. And just mix it together and incorporate everything. What's great about these is you can have them made a day in advance, and they can be breaded and ready to go. And then the day of the event, you just pop them in the oven or throw them in a fryer if you got one at home. I know air frying's the rage these days, which whatever. But if you have one of those, you can go with that. And we're going to season it up here. A little bit of salt. And pepper. Mallory, can you grab my pepper mill? Thank you. So just take a quick check on the butter here. We're going to turn it up a little bit. All right. Final stages of this being work together. All right, once you have this mixture made, you want to let it kind of chill back together, and then you'll go into making your sauerkraut balls from there. I'm just going to grab some that we have chilled up over here, and we have our little breading station here for you. So once you have the mixture, you're going to take it, scoop into a little ball, roll it together. You're going to go mixture. The way they always teach you in culinary school is you got to have one dry hand, one wet hand. So you get your dry hand, and then you go into your wet ingredients, and then into your dry ingredients. This way, you don't have as much of a mess. With everything going on right now, I'm sure everyone's got a supply of gloves at home, which makes cleanup a lot easier. So once you have your balls together, we'll grab a couple more here. Checking on the butter, it looks just about there. So I will dredge these guys real quick. So part of Derby, I'll talk about some other things too while I have you guys, is bourbon. And so the bourbon that we're going to be using is from our private selection. We have private barrels with Four Roses, Sycamore Whiskey, and New Riff. It's a terrible job, but somebody's got to do it, right? So we go and we taste through a bunch of barrels. We say, we want this one. And then from there, we get our private barrel. So we'll be using actually Four Roses today as part of our pecan bars. Once you have the mixture going pretty good here and you got a good cream going, we're going to add one egg at a time and let it fully incorporate before you add your next egg. Once you start adding liquid to your creaming method here, you can't go back, and that's as much as you're going to be able to get into it. The creaming incorporates air, which allows for a crispier crust. While that's going on, we can go ahead and mix up our pimento. We'll go ahead and start frying off on the potato balls. So if you want to come around to the stove over here, so here we have just some oil on the stove. We have the temperature at about 370 degrees right now. We're going to just turn the heat back on a little bit, because what's going to happen is once you drop in the potato balls, they're going to start pulling the heat out of the oil right away. So you want to be up a little bit higher than 350, because it's going to drop back down. So go ahead and you just drop them in very gently, one at a time. And we'll let these guys cook up over here. And once they come out, they're going to look like this. All right, golden brown. Important thing is you make sure you season them when they come out of the fryer or out of the oil or out of the oven, because that's your only chance for the salt to really stick to them. So I'm going to get rid of this guy right here. Come over here. We're going to check on the eggs. One more egg in over here. Always multitasking in the kitchen. Get one more egg in. After this, we're going to add the flour to the mixture, and that's where it can really get kind of messy. So just again, give yourself some space. You're going to make a mess. It's going to happen. That's okay. All right, these guys are ready to come out of the oil now. We're going to make sure we shut the oil off after we're done using it. That way we don't accidentally forget about it, and next thing you know, you're burning the kitchen down. So we'll set these guys here to cool down for a minute, and we season them. And we've added our last egg in over here. With our last egg in, we'll start adding in our flour. Actually, let's do a scrape down first. We're going to scrape down the bowl first. Make sure we got all the butter really incorporated well. So give the bowl a good scrape from all the way from the bottom. Make sure everything mixes in very well. Give it one more spin on the mixer. So as this comes together for a final time, we'll turn it down to our lowest setting, and we'll start incorporating our flour. Like I said, a little bit at a time, so you don't have a big puff of flour coming up. And this is 2 pounds of flour going in. And the key here is to get it all just incorporated. And then once it's just incorporated, you don't want to work it too much. Most of you hear about developing gluten. Some things you want gluten development, like pizza dough, or some breads that you want a really tight crust on. For this, you don't want a ton of gluten development. You really want to just get it mixed together. Once it's mixed together, just to there, stop it. Okay? From here, there we go. Get it down. This is where it helps to actually have gloves as well. Spatulas work, but sometimes the best thing is your hand. And again, with the climate we're living in today, I'm sure that plenty of you have gloves at home. So, you're just going to get the dough off of here. So once you have this dough ready to go, what your next thing to do is you're going to want to chill it and let it rest. Like most things, pizza doughs, bread doughs, you really got to give them a chance to rest and fully hydrate. So that's where all the water gets absorbed in completely to the dough. And also chilling it too, because what's going to happen is the butter in there will get too soft to work, and it'll just get gummy. So once it's chilled, you can really work with it well and get to the point where you can work with the dough really easily. So we're going to take this guy, and we're going to put him in the fridge over here. And I just happen to have some ready to go. So the key thing about this dough, what's nice about it is, you bring it out, you let it sit out for about 5 or 10 minutes, and it's ready to go. You don't need a ton of flour on the cutting board. You know why? Grab a piece of parchment. There you go. Grab a piece of parchment. And also, too, if you're not chilled enough, the dough will stick to the parchment and make this method really difficult. So if you have it nice and chilled, and you get a little bit of temper out, you can just work it out with a rolling pin. And you're looking for about a 1/4 inch thickness. And what that'll give you in the end, after you bake it off, you're going to bake it off to golden brown. And that's going to give you this right here. So this is just like any other short dough, except it has maybe a little bit more butter. There's nothing wrong with that. So this is the start of the base of your pecan, bourbon, chocolate bars. That's a lot. So from here, we're going to go ahead and get the ingredients on the stove to dissolve the molasses, the sugar, and all the other good stuff to go with it. It's right behind me. All right. Get rid of this guy. Slide this guy right on over. So from here, you want to add your sugar, brown and white sugar, your molasses. Some recipes you'll find call for corn syrup, some recipes call for dark corn syrup. We're just going to go with molasses for a deeper flavor. All right. Don't forget to season. Salt is very important in baking. It's one of the most underthought of things when you hear people talk about pastries and baking is salt. You're going to bring this mixture together on the stove, and you're going to bring it up to a boil, and you're going to let it boil for about 3 minutes. Once you have that, you're going to let it come back down a little bit in temperature, and then we'll be able to incorporate it over here to the actual the bars themselves. So for that, you're just going to take your pecan pieces. We're using a 63% chocolate. This is called Java chocolate. It's got a little bit of a coffee hint to it as well. Add nice flavor to it. Okay, just give that a quick little stir around. The key thing also here with this is make sure your pan has been sprayed and your shell is cool before you do this, because then you'll start to melt your chocolate down. So you're going to also have then, for this, your eggs. And you have melted butter. So you're just going to whisk up your eggs. And what's going to happen is, once your mixture comes up to a boil and it's boiled for 3 minutes, you will temper the mixture into the eggs, which means you slowly bring the temperature of the eggs up. If you put the mixture into the eggs too quickly, then you will cook the eggs, and that'll defeat the purpose of this, because the eggs are going to set it like a custard. Just go quick check over here. All right, that's almost ready. Put that down just a bit. So while we're waiting for that mixture to come up to a boil, we can make the pimento cheese, which is a very straightforward, easy recipe, but nonetheless very delicious. So what we have is we have cream cheese, all right. We have cheddar cheese. This is all really, really healthy food, I swear. We have our seasoning mixture, which we have onion, garlic, and cayenne. We have mayonnaise. And then we got 2 types of chilies here. We got pimento chilies, canned diced pimento chilies. And then we have fresh jalapeno. Seeds are removed. If you like a little more heat, go leave the seeds in. But just remember that when you go to eat it. All right, so then all we're really going to do here is give it a roll on the mixer, and then we'll have the mixture ready to go. Don't forget to season it. Salt. Pepper. Start off on low. Just quick. Mallory, can you have a spatula? All right. So our mixture is ready to go here. Get a quick little wipe off the area. Take a little check over here. This has been going for about 2 minutes, almost ready to go. You're really looking to get the sugar dissolved and to give it a little bit of a boil, so you start to get that caramelization down. All right. So once you have this done over here, you're going to pull it off the heat. Then you're going to add in your vanilla and your bourbon. Very good flavor combinations, vanilla and bourbon. And we chose to use Four Roses. The barrel that from this is what picked is has a really, really nice spice note behind it. Four Roses is a higher rye content on some of their recipes. And so it really works really well with all the flavors that you got going on. So now that we got the pimento cheese done, We have a bowl here with the pimento cheese in the center. All right. So then we'll just put a couple of the sauerkraut balls around. Let everyone go at it at your party. And make sure you've got, some drinks poured at this point, because what point is a party without some beverages? All right, so that's our first one right here. All right, so now that the mixture is ready to go for the bourbon bars, take this spatula and get rid of the cutting board. Actually, I still need that guy. This has come down a little bit in temperature. Okay, so we're going to pour a little bit in. Just be careful here. It still might be a little hot, and molten sugar is actually a very, very fast way to get burned. So you're just going to gently pour a little bit over, incorporating it slowly. Until you get it all in there and it's good to go. Okay. All right, and then we're just going to pour it right on over. Work it around a little bit. You'll start to see some of that chocolate really start to melt down. Okay. And this is going to go in a 325-degree oven for about 50 minutes until you really start to see the edges bubble up. So we got an oven ready to go right here. So what will happen is once it starts cooking, you'll start to see the edges come up like almost like a cheesecake would. And then you'll start to see the outside get stiff, and then you'll see the inside's a little bit jiggly still. Once you get to the point where it's just set, don't let it go any further, and then you pull it out and let it chill. So we're going to get this guy in this oven right here. And then what you have is your finished product is right here. Once it came out of the oven, I immediately took just a little offset spatula and ran it around the edge. That way I let it release from the side of the pan. So then again, now that it's chilled, I can come in, just go back around it again. Now you can cut it out of this pan if you want. Just use a knife into there. But another way to do it is to flip it out. If it doesn't want to come out right away, your next best trick is take a quick blowtorch, and this will release the fats from the pan. It should be able to drop out right there. So now it's out of the pan. And now comes the next step, getting it on the cutting board. Just flip it out onto the cutting board. It's that easy. Everyone can do this. So there's your finished bars right there. So we're just going to go ahead and, the outer edges are probably going to be a little bit harder to work with. So let's go ahead and cut those guys off. And that's what we in the kitchen call Scooby snacks. So when we make our Orchids granola bars, we have the outer edge, which is not perfect. And you'll usually see some of the cooks in the kitchen, there'll be a bowl of these little end cuts. And they'll be sitting there, they'll grab a snack on their way to their station or something like that and then get to work. It's a nice little pick-me-up during the day. So for this, we're going to grab another plate. Okay. Just make some good-sized pieces. One thing that helps too is maybe even letting it set in the freezer for a little bit and chill even a little bit harder. That way, when you go to cut it, it'll stay in a little bit better shape, but these are holding together pretty well. So there we go. Got some chocolate bourbon pecan bars. I got it right that time. So that's really it. That's all I got for you today. Please try these out. I will get the recipes together and give them to Linda so she can have them available for anyone that would like the recipes. Again, thank you very much for your generous donation to our staff. I know they really enjoyed it, and they really were touched by your generosity. And have a great day and enjoy Derby.
Well, that was quite impressive, George.
Well, thank you.
Now, for those that do not know, I'm actually in my Westchester office, and of course, George is downtown. So, George, I was hoping maybe you could call Uber Eats and maybe have a couple of these dishes delivered to me. Is that possible?
Sure, why not?
All right. Well, thanks so much. And a number of folks actually submitted some questions for you, so I wanted to ask you some of their questions and have you answer them. So.
Sounds good.
This first question was submitted by Nancy Reese, and her question is that being a chef is hard work with long hours and weekends and holidays. So how do you really unwind and recharge your batteries?
As crazy as it sounds, is I usually go home and find a project to do at home. I love working on things around the house. I grew up, my whole family's in the trades. My uncle's a stonemason. My stepfather's a plumber. So I actually do a lot of things around the house myself, and that those problem-solving situations actually just help reset myself.
Interesting. How about, from more of a business perspective, how do you think that with the COVID-19 crisis in mind that dining out will change?
I think at first we'll see people really trying to keep up with this social distancing, but I'm kind of hoping because of the style of service we do here in Orchids and because of our bar, it's a very social setting. I don't know if you've been there on a Friday or Saturday night, but the bar is very busy. It's very packed, and I think that it maybe will help people be a little bit more cautious with things, but I really hope that we kind of get back to getting back into the community mode and really not being afraid to be around other people.
That's what we're hoping for our Rotary meetings as well. So
yeah,
hopefully sooner rather than later. So from a personal perspective, when you go home at night, if you could make one dish for your dinner tonight, what would that be?
That's a tough one because I usually try to cook whatever my children will eat, which is not very much. But when I go home, if I would go home tonight, I think that probably my maitake dish would be there. It's maitake mushrooms with tortellinis with ricotta inside and spinach. So it's just a really, really straightforward, good flavorful dish.
My mouth is watering as we speak here. So, Steve Dreyfall had actually asked the question, and I think we already know the answer, but I'll state it anyway, that can we get the recipe for the bourbon pecan chocolate bars? And to everyone's delight, our chef has actually emailed that over to us a little bit earlier, so we'll figure out a way to get it out to all of our members. And but we do want it at a future lunch. I think that would be an awesome way to top off this session. And the final question is actually a Cincinnati-Pittsburgh rivalry type of question. Did you change any of your sports team affiliations when you moved to Cincinnati from Pittsburgh? And if not, do you think this might be the year to start rooting for the Bengals?
No and no. Sorry, I'm from Pittsburgh. Steelers is part of what I did growing up. My family, we've always had season tickets. So it's just something that I'll always be a part of. I'm not afraid to root for the Bengals if they're not playing the Steelers, or the Reds, if they're not playing the Pirates. But it's just, it is what it is.
Absolutely. And most of the time when the Steelers come to town, there's more yellow and black in the stands than what we'd like to see. But anyway, we'll get beyond that. So, well, George, I really appreciate you taking the time today to be with us. Certainly we've had an outstanding relationship with the Hilton, and you've been a big part of that, as well as the rest of your staff. And we're treated royally by your staff. So we're really happy that we continue to be in the hotel for our Thursday meetings.
Well, thank
And I
you.
think you probably know from our perspective that Rotary International, one of our primary objectives from a healthcare perspective is to eradicate polio. And we started this process back in the late 80s, and there are over 350,000 new cases each and every year. But we're down to just a few dozen in other parts of the world. It's not been in the States, obviously, in a long, long period of time. But the reason I'm telling you this is that our club is going to be making a donation to the Rotary International In Polio Now campaign in your honor today for being here. So we certainly appreciate you being here and showcasing your talents, and we're looking forward to seeing you hopefully very soon in the Hall of Mirrors.
We look forward to having you back, and we can't wait to get you back up into the Hall of Mirrors.
Absolutely. Well, that concludes our meeting today. Next week, we're going to have even a different virtual meeting from what we've had so far in the last month. But John Romicio, who is from the U.S. Army Medical Command Headquarters, and he's from the Office of the Surgeon General, will actually be speaking to us next week. So we're looking forward to hearing him as well. One thing that I wanted to do in closing, I wanted to actually talk a little bit about a quote that I saw earlier in the last week or so, and it's from a gentleman by the name of Todd Gongwer. And his quote is, "Amidst all this craziness, there are two big things that really haven't changed. Number one, the gift of time that we have to give to each other each and every day. And number two, the ability to choose what we do with that time." And I think that the thing I love about Rotary and our Rotarians and our club in particular is that we always choose to give our time to someone in need. And that's just part of our DNA, and we're looking forward to doing that together here very shortly. So with that, Rotarians, I hope you enjoyed our virtual meeting today, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Meeting adjourned.